Anybody remember Zadeh Kicks? During the boom of the sneaker resale era, Zadeh Kicks was one of the biggest online resellers in the game. At one point, they even ranked as the #1 website on Shopify platforms and were raking in millions of dollars in sales. But as any sneaker fan knows, Zadeh Kicks has fallen from grace hard as of late. I actually did a video on them a few years back when all of the news first broke, but for some reason it got claimed and I think we deleted it for whatever reason. But anyway, the point is, with all of the recent developments in the case, I thought it would be a good idea to do another one including all of the new findings. This is a story of high demand, high profits, and even higher controversy. How did Zadeh Kicks become a dominant force in sneaker reselling, and more importantly, what went terribly wrong, leading to the collapse of one of the biggest sneaker plug operations ever? Let's find out. I'm Nate the Great from TakeFlight214.com, and this is the rise and fall of Zadeh Kicks 2, the sneaker king who went too far. Our story starts with Michael Zadeh, the man behind Zadeh Kicks. He launched the company in 2013, seeing it blast off like a rocket, bringing in $2 million in sales in just 2 years of launching. And by 2017, he was bringing in $6 million in monthly sales. But how? What was he doing that was working so well? I would like to know, and let me try it. He started by buying older stock from retail stores and selling them on eBay. Sounds simple, right? For those that don't know, the large sneaker companies like Nike place strict restrictions on all of the retailers selling their sneakers. They prohibit most brick and mortar stores from actually selling on sites like Amazon and eBay. And not to mention, they have historically used highly sought after limited releases as a rewards of sort for stores that acquiesce to their mob style demands. If you've got a store, for instance, and want to offer the latest Jordan releases, well, first you got to get in good with Nike by taking crate after crate of random generic garbage just to prove that you're worthy first. Not to mention, you have to give them a certain percentage of shelf space and tons of other crazy stipulations, but that's another story for another day. Point being, understandably, this leaves many of the stores with tons of overstock that they can't get rid of. And that's where Michael came into play. Basically, he would form a relationship with retailers, buying their unwanted sneakers at discount prices and turning around and reselling them on eBay. Considering he was able to sell them for so cheap, he managed to build a successful business from this. And by developing relationships with all of the stores that he purchased from, Zadeh was eventually able to secure newly released products, introducing retro Jordans in a manner commonly referred to in the business as quote-unquote backdoor arrangements. This was huge because it gave buyers a chance to secure pairs without dealing with the hassle of sneaker raffles, bots, or long lines. And since sneaker reselling is all about margins, resellers flocked to Zadeh Kicks to bulk buy hyped releases at below market prices. For years, this business model worked. Zadeh Kicks became a trusted reseller, moving millions of dollars of sneakers every year. Buyers saw consistent deliveries and hype around the brand skyrocketed. It seemed like a win-win for sneakerheads looking to cash in on the boom of the resale market. By 2020, thanks to the pandemic and many businesses shutting down on-site sales, online sellers experienced a crazy amount of business. And Zadeh Kicks was at the forefront of the pack, reaping exponential growth and ranking at the top 1% of all Shopify stores. But the problem was, they couldn't keep up with all of the demand. The growth continued in 2021 as Zadeh Kicks recorded more than 84,500 orders. Shortly into the pandemic, the Netflix dossier The Last Dance aired over the course of 5 weeks, telling the story of Michael Jordan's historic final season with the Chicago Bulls. The documentary wasn't just a moneymaker for Netflix. It increased the demand of retro Air Jordans, driving up prices. Another factor that drove up prices were the stimmy checks. Once the government finally found it in their souls to unclench their tight ass cheeks enough to help out the people just a little bit, many people unfortunately chose to bust out their $1,400 checks on sneakers. The point is, the sneaker resale market was at an all-time high at this time, and Zadeh Kicks was at the center of the explosion. We're talking about bulk pre-orders of Jordan 1s, Yeezys, and many of the other hype drops at prices well below StockX and GOAT. Buyers could lock in hundreds of pairs at once, creating a reseller's dream scenario. And with sneaker culture exploding, so was Michael's business. Pre-orders were selling out fast, and as long as orders kept getting fulfilled, trust in Zadeh Kicks remained strong. But as the old saying goes, if something seems too good to be true, it probably is. And by 2021, cracks had begun to show in Zadeh Kicks' empire. At first, it was just minor delays. Buyers expecting pre-orders on time started waiting weeks or even months. But because sneaker reselling is a trust-based game, many resellers assumed that eventually their orders would come through. Then, bigger red flags started to appear. Orders started getting canceled outright, but instead of full refunds, buyers were issued store credit. This forced people into reinvesting into the site, keeping the cash locked into the system. And then the final bomb dropped. In May of 2022, Zadeh Kicks was shut down, and Malik Zadeh was hit with federal fraud charges. According to court filings, Zadeh Kicks had been running what authorities called a Ponzi scheme. The company was taking in millions of dollars in pre-orders without actually having the sneakers in stock. Instead, new customer payments were used to cover old orders, creating a house of cards that was doomed to collapse. They were in up to their ears. They owed tons of people for unfulfilled orders to the tune of $65 million in total. The demolition of Zadeh Kicks has been ongoing for years at this point. And as of a few weeks ago, Zadeh Kicks requested that Oregon courts dissolve its 9-year-old business, declaring itself insolvent and unable to pay millions of dollars worth of debt. On March 20th of 2025, Michael Malik Zadeh officially entered a guilty plea to federal charges of wire fraud and conspiracy to commit bank fraud, marking a significant development in the sneaker world's most notorious case. Both Michael and his co-conspirator Bethany Mockerman had been indicted back in 2022, to which they originally pled not guilty. At this point though, it seemed like Michael has finally resigned himself to the fact that the jig is up. Ultimately, the problem was that he got himself in over his head. The history of American business is full of stories of people taking crazy risks in the beginning that eventually paid off in a big way. But for every success story, what they don't tell you is that there's tons of cases where guys crapped out and lost everything. Michael seemed like he had big dreams to grow a small sneaker hustle into something huge, and he succeeded on one hand. But on the other hand, his calculations were off, and he got himself in out over his skis. I can personally relate to a certain degree. When I first got into the retail business, I had big plans too, still do. But there was a point where sales got so high that it became difficult to keep up with. I never went to school for business. I'm an artist and a creative, just out here winging it. So there was a point where things got away from me for a bit. Difference is, I wind up getting back on track, the moral way, without full-on ripping people off or committing fraud. Michael, on the other hand, got himself in a deeper and deeper hole. They had overpromised, obtained loans through fraudulent means that they knew they couldn't pay back. Things had basically hit the fan for Zadeh Kicks in a major way. As of now, the saga continues. It remains to be seen if all of the people owed money will ever get repaid, but at this point it's looking more and more like no, and they'll probably just have to wind up taking the L. When it comes to Michael and his Cody, they very well may be looking at jail time, but I guess we'll find out. What do you think? Did you ever buy anything from Zadeh Kicks? Do you think the people will ever get their money back? Hit us up in the comment section and let us know. And if you made it all the way to the end, then we hope that you already hit the like button, considering my first spiel on it at the beginning of the video. But if you haven't, what you waiting for? Go ahead and hit it out. But if you haven't, what you waiting for? Go ahead and hit it now. And if you want to be updated whenever we drop a new episode, which we are now doing twice a week, one on Wednesday and one on Sunday, then hit the subscribe button and then the notification bell. That way you can be reminded when each new episode is released. With all that being said, I'm Nate the Great from TakeFlight214.com signing out. Until next time, peace.